Anonymous photos expose my wife's cheating in a hotel, and it was just the beginning of a darker secret. They catch the little flaws in your tale, the secret hints you overlooked, and the companions you were just too cozy with to notice. Today on the Betrayal Room, it seems like everyone else has cracked the code to your marriage before you even got the memo. I received a message from someone who clearly prefers to remain in the shadows. So, my wife decided to have a little rendezvous, and guess who showed up uninvited at their hotel shindig? Yep, that would be me, the surprise guest of the year. Well, here I find myself, not exactly the poster child for marital bliss, but rather the reluctant author of a tale about my unfaithful wife on Reddit. Life sure has a funny way of tossing you into the deep end, doesn't it? These past few weeks have been quite the roller coaster, and I just have to spill the beans. It all kicked off with an email, just a casual little note in my inbox that read, "Your wife is cheating on you." Talk about a plot twist, right? Initially, I was convinced it was just spam or perhaps the universe's idea of a cruel prank. The message had the audacity to claim it was from the spouse of the person my wife was allegedly having an affair with. It was all smoke and mirrors, no details, just a finger pointed in my direction. Just 2 days later, another email popped up from that familiar address. This time, we've got a delightful collection of screenshots featuring text messages exchanged between Lauren and a contact humorously labeled as work friend in her phone. The messages didn't come right out and say it, but they were certainly dancing around the topic with a cheeky wink. So many messages filled with excitement to see you and a sprinkle of "I miss you already." The sender insisted there was a mountain of evidence and that our spouses had been sneaking around for what felt like an eternity. I mulled over this information for a whole day, weighing my options like a chef deciding whether to add salt or sugar to a recipe. In hindsight, it's clear I missed all the red flags waving like they were at a parade. For months now, Lauren had been pulling a bit of a disappearing act. She was clocking in late hours like she was training for the Night Owl Olympics, clutching her phone like it was a winning lottery ticket, and giving it the kind of attention usually reserved for a beloved pet. Meanwhile, her interest in intimacy seemed to have taken a vacation, and she was suddenly all about those girls' nights and work trips, more than a cat with 9 lives, I tell you. Ah, the classic signs of a cheater, like a bad plot twist in a novel I should have seen coming, but I was too busy believing in the happy ending. I figured it was best to hold off on the whole confrontation thing for the moment. If she was up to no good, I figured I'd better have some rock-solid evidence before throwing around any accusations. I began to really tune into how she was acting. And wouldn't you know it, those red flags were popping up like daisies in spring. She'd slip away to another room for her calls, suddenly fussing over her looks like she was preparing for a red carpet event, and overall, she seemed to be a million miles away. Then she casually dropped the bomb that she had a 3-day conference in Chicago next month. The timing couldn't have been more spot on with what the mysterious emailer had hinted at. I gave a nod and put on my best everything's fine face. A couple of days later, the mysterious sender popped back into my life, this time with a little nugget of information. Lauren and their partner had snagged adjoining rooms at the Marriott in Chicago. How cozy. One fine morning, while she was busy singing her heart out in the shower, I couldn't resist the temptation to take a little peek at her phone. Well, wouldn't you know it? I stumbled upon some deleted text messages in her trash folder that laid it all out for me. Talk about a plot twist. She was tangled up in a little romance with a fellow named Michael. There were some rather revealing photos and a blueprint for their grand Chicago rendezvous. Reading those messages was like being on the receiving end of a surprise boxing match. My stomach didn't stand a chance. The woman I'd shared 7 years of my life with was busy plotting a weekend of steamy escapades with another guy, chatting away about positions and fantasies like they were planning a dinner menu. I slid her phone back into its rightful spot, channeling my inner actor as I pretended everything was just peachy when she emerged from the shower. It was like being the lead in a tragicomedy, where I had to smile and wave while my whole universe was doing the cha-cha into chaos. The following day was dedicated to my deep dive into the mysterious world of this Michael fellow, armed with nothing but my trusty internet connection and a curious mind. Well, it turns out he was already off the market, complete with a wife and 2 little ones in tow. After a bit of sleuthing on social media, I managed to unearth his wife's contact info. I got in touch with her, and lo and behold, she confirmed it. She was the mysterious sender all along. She had been on the case for weeks, collecting enough evidence to fill a novel, or at least a juicy tabloid article. We decided to rendezvous in the flesh a few days down the line. She showed up with a folder bursting at the seams, hotel receipts, snapshots of their past escapades, and credit card statements that practically screamed, "Look at all the gifts I bought." It was like trying to drink from a fire hose. This isn't just a flash in the pan or something that popped up overnight. They'd been at it for at least 6 months, possibly even longer, like a couple of characters in a novel who just can't seem to get their act together. So, Michael's wife and I hatched a little scheme together. We'd face them head-on during the Chicago trip. She aimed to catch them off guard, hoping to throw a wrench in their plans and keep them from giving each other a heads-up or syncing their schedules. I was on board. It seemed like the smartest way to go about it. As the day rolled around for Lauren to head off to her conference, I planted a kiss on her cheek and casually mentioned that I'd be knee-deep in a project, which meant our chats might be a bit scarce. You know, just the usual "I'll be busy" excuse, but with a sprinkle of charm. She looked like a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. The very next day, I hopped on a plane to Chicago, keeping my little adventure under wraps from everyone. I found myself back at the same hotel, just a few floors up this time. Who knew a change in altitude could feel so refreshing? Michael's wife and I were texting like two secret agents on a mission. Somehow, she had managed to snag a keycard to their room, thanks to her impressive network of connections, or perhaps just a well-timed chat with the right person. She had a friend who was in the hotel business. We had it all mapped out to waltz into the room at precisely 8:30 p.m., like clockwork, if only time were as reliable as our plans. When we figured they'd show up, just like clockwork, based on their past antics. When the clock struck the right hour, there I was, loitering outside their door alongside Michael's wife, like two characters waiting for the next plot twist to unfold. My heart was thumping away like it was auditioning for a role in a horror movie, ready to leap right out of my chest. She passed me the keycard, and I inhaled deeply, preparing myself for the grand adventure of sliding it into the lock. The door swung open, and lo and behold, there they were, cozied up in bed together. The expression on Lauren's face when she spotted me in the doorway was priceless, definitely a moment etched in my memory forever. Utter disbelief. In a flurry of limbs and fabric, she dove for cover as Michael leapt to his feet, his eyes darting around like a lost puppy searching for its favorite toy, his clothes, that is. I stood there, phone in hand, snapping pictures like a tourist at a landmark, just gathering proof for my future storytelling adventures. Then I locked eyes with Lauren and said, "Don't bother coming back home. I'll get your stuff all packed up in no time." So, there I was, taking my grand exit. After I had my little showdown, Michael's wife decided it was her turn to step into the ring. I decided to make a swift exit before the story got any longer. The very next morning, I hopped on a plane and, upon landing, wasted no time in swapping out the locks like a pro. Who needs a locksmith when you've got a sense of urgency and a bit of elbow grease? I gathered up Lauren's must-haves and delivered them to her sister like a well-meaning courier on a mission. I kept it simple with her sister, just dropped the bomb that Lauren had strayed, and, oh boy, I had the receipts to back it up. It was like someone opened the floodgates, calls and texts came pouring in before I could even blink. There were claims flying around that I had barged into her personal space, and I found myself in a whirlwind of trying to clarify that things weren't quite as they seemed. After just one day, I decided to give her number the old heave-ho. I reached out to a divorce attorney and kicked off the whole process. I made sure to fill in our families about the situation before Lauren had a chance to weave her own tale. Her parents were taken aback, but honestly, not as much as I thought they would be. Well, it seems she had a bit of a history with her previous boyfriends, if you catch my drift. It was one of those things that never quite made it onto the list of topics for polite conversation. The toughest nut to crack has been the solitude, like trying to find a needle in a haystack while blindfolded and on a unicycle. Returning to a house that feels more like a ghost town, she flops onto her bed, embracing the solitude like an old friend. Yet, deep down, I'm convinced I chose wisely. Well, it looks like we've hit a point of no return, folks. The well-planned trickery, the endless web of fibs, and the utter neglect of our sacred promises to each other. Well, that's just downright inexcusable. A few pals have nudged me to give her a listen. Perhaps we could navigate this little adventure with a bit of counseling help. Well, that's a hard pass from me. Well, I've finally laid my eyes on the genuine Lauren. The person who could meet my gaze each day, all the while pulling off the most intimate betrayal imaginable. Talk about a plot twist. I think I'm worth a little more than that, don't you? The divorce circus has officially begun. I'm aiming for a smooth exit, like slipping out of a party before the awkward dance-off starts. But knowing Lauren, that could just be a pipe dream. She's always had a knack for dodging the fallout from her choices, like a cat avoiding a bath. Every now and then, I still catch up with Michael's wife. Life has a funny way of keeping connections alive, doesn't it? Well, it looks like she's decided to take the plunge into the world of divorce paperwork. And there you have it, folks, my tale in a nutshell. It's not the sunniest tale in the bunch, but I'm putting it out there because it really helped me get everything off my chest. And who knows, it might just lend a hand to someone else navigating a similar storm. Well, I can't predict the future, but I have a hunch it's going to be a whole lot brighter. Who knows, maybe I'll finally figure out how to fold a fitted sheet. The ache is still hanging around like an uninvited guest, but each morning it seems to pack its bags just a bit more. I'm on a little journey to find out who I am when I'm not just Lauren's husband. Guess what? There's something about that guy that I find pretty likable. I've been swimming in a sea of support from this community, and let me tell you, the kind words and advice have been like a warm hug on a chilly day. Truly appreciated. I'll drop a line when something worth your attention comes up. I appreciate you taking the time to dive into my tale. Honestly, the highlight of the day was when you casually said to her, "Don't bother coming home." Classic move. It must feel like you're stuck in a never-ending episode of a drama series, but hey, it seems like you're already dusting off your shoes and getting back on that path of yours. So, how about joining forces with Michael's better half? Honestly, that's a power move that's off the charts. Every now and then, the most unfortunate circumstances lead to the most unexpected friendships. Here's the first update for you. Well, here we are, a few weeks have slipped by like a cat on a slick floor. Well, to kick things off, Lauren made her grand entrance at her house. So, here I am in my house, 3 days post the great hotel showdown. There she was, tears streaming down her face, insisting that they have a chat. I stood my ground and didn't let her in, which resulted in a delightful 20-minute performance of her screaming on the front lawn. Quite the neighborhood entertainment, I must say. The neighbors certainly had front-row seats to the spectacle that day. In the end, she took off, but not before showering me with a delightful array of insults, so much for her heartfelt apologies. The following day, her sister decided to drop me a line. She was all about convincing me that Lauren was a total wreck and absolutely worthy of a do-over. I skipped the fluff and got straight to the point. I just shot her the pics from the hotel room. I haven't heard a peep from her since then. Not long after, my attorney sent over the divorce papers, like a surprise package I never asked for. The adventure of jotting down assets and gearing up for the financial split kicked off in full swing. My lawyer suggested I round up all the financial documents and whip up a detailed list of our marital treasures. It's quite the eye-opener to see just how much paperwork comes into play when you're trying to untangle a marriage. About a week later, I found myself staring at a 12-page handwritten letter from Lauren, wondering if I had just signed up for a novel or a marathon of my patience. She launched into a dramatic saga about how my relentless work schedule and emotional unavailability were the dastardly villains that pushed her into the arms of another. It was like I was the unwitting star of a soap opera, complete with a plot twist that left me scratching my head. Ah, the timeless art of passing the buck. I barely got through the first few pages before giving it a one-way ticket to the trash can. I'm not about to shoulder the blame for her choices, thank you very much. She opted for silence instead of just saying what was on her mind or packing her bags if she was feeling blue. I've been getting the latest scoop from Michael's wife about what's been going on with them. So, it turns out Michael had a bit of a wandering eye during their marriage, multiple affairs, to be exact. Who knew he was such a busy guy? Lauren was just one of the many chapters in his rather colorful love story. Well, it turns out they're also calling it quits, and we've decided to swap any juicy evidence if it comes to that in our own little legal dramas. Last week, I got a call from her parents. At first, they were as welcoming as a porcupine at a balloon party, clearly having only gotten the scoop from Lauren's side of the story. Once I laid out the evidence, it was like flipping a switch on their attitude. They actually said sorry and confessed that Lauren has had a bit of a wandering heart in past relationships. Well, that would have been handy information to have before I said I do, wouldn't it? So, a co-worker just spilled the beans that Lauren and Michael have decided to take their relationship public. Who knew office romances could be so entertaining? It seems they've decided to play the role of star-crossed lovers, claiming they discovered each other only after their previous marriages had hit the skids. Polishing the past to shine a brighter light on themselves. It's a bit sad, but honestly, who didn't see that coming? Well, it seems like a match made in some sort of cosmic comedy club, doesn't it? They really do deserve each other. The divorce has turned into quite the drama. Lauren has decided that she wants half of everything, even my grandfather's inheritance, which, let's be honest, isn't exactly part of the marriage deal. My lawyer swears there's no way she can lay claim to it, but here she is, throwing punches like it's a boxing match. It looks like she's set on squeezing every last drop out of me. Yesterday, I received a call from Michael's wife, and let me tell you, she had some news that was anything but boring. She ran into Lauren at their family home, but only because Lauren happened to be out and about. Lauren had been busy swiping things that were definitely not hers, all belonging to Michael's wife. Well, it seems a police report has made its grand entrance into the world of paperwork. So, the latest twist in this saga was when her lawyer decided to drop me a line with a settlement proposal that would hand her a whopping 70% of our assets. Talk about a generous split. My lawyer came back with a perfectly reasonable suggestion, a nice, tidy 50-50 split of the actual assets. Fair's fair, right? Her lawyer is out here claiming she gave up career opportunities during our marriage, which is just plain ridiculous. She's been hustling full-time since we started dating, never once passing up a promotion or a chance to climb the ladder just because I'm around. So, there I was yesterday, minding my own business, when I got a rather menacing text from Michael. He was all like, "Back off and take Lauren's settlement terms." Naturally, I thought, what a charmer. So, I did the sensible thing and forwarded his little love note to my lawyer and Michael's wife. Because why not share the joy, right? My lawyer is thinking about spinning this into a harassment case in our proceedings. Who knew legal drama could be so entertaining? I'll drop another update once the divorce is wrapped up or if something noteworthy pops up in the meantime. Thanks a bunch for all the support. You folks really know how to make a person feel appreciated. Here we go with update 2. Apologies for the hold-up in getting this update out to you. So much has gone down that I really needed a moment to wrap my head around it all. After laying eyes on the evidence my attorney had neatly packaged, Lauren's lawyer decided to toss those outrageous settlement demands right out the window. The snapshots from the hotel room, the flurry of text messages, and Michael's not-so-friendly note painted a picture that left her in quite the pickle. My lawyer mentioned that her attorney nearly flinched at the sight of the evidence. We set up a mediation session, hoping to sort things out without diving headfirst into a courtroom drama. Lauren strolled in, dragging Michael behind her like a reluctant puppy, and just like that, the atmosphere thickened with tension. You could practically cut it with a butter knife. The mediator wasn't having any of it and told him to skedaddle before we could even get the show on the road. Michael's wife has been filling me in on the latest twists and turns of their divorce saga. It seems they had one of those prenups, and wouldn't you know it, it's turning out to be quite the lucky charm for her. Michael is watching his assets slip through his fingers like sand, and to add insult to injury, his access to the kids is getting tighter than a pair of jeans after Thanksgiving dinner, all thanks to his antics during and after the affair. Ah, karma. The universe's way of giving you a little nudge, or perhaps a swift kick, when you least expect it. It's like a cosmic game of tag, and you never know when you might be it. Things took a delightful turn when Lauren found herself unexpectedly jobless. It turned out her company had stumbled upon a little secret. She'd been cooking the books on her expense reports to fund some cozy hotel rendezvous with Michael. She really had the nerve to pin the blame on me for wrecking her life when she rang me up to spill the beans about it. Once again, her sister decided to drop me a line. She spilled the beans that Lauren has shacked up with Michael, but it seems their love nest is already feeling a bit wobbly. At long last, we've managed to hammer out a settlement agreement that's fair to everyone involved. No one's getting the short end of the stick this time. We're splitting our assets right down the middle, 50-50, no alimony in sight. After all, our marriage was shorter than a cat video, and let's just say there's some evidence of infidelity that makes this decision a no-brainer. Last week, I put pen to paper and officially signed the divorce papers. It felt like closing the chapter on a rather lengthy novel, one filled with plot twists and a few too many cliffhangers. Well, my ex decided to play the ultimate game of hide-and-seek, only they forgot to seek. Her lawyer took care of all the nitty-gritty details. After all the build-up, it felt a bit like a balloon losing air, but as I strolled out of the attorney's office, I could practically feel the boulder rolling off my back. Well, it looks like I'm back in the single club, folks. Membership renewed and everything. Yesterday, I got a call from Michael's wife, and let me tell you, she had some juicy tidbits to share. Well, it seems Michael has already taken a detour on the relationship highway, finding himself in a little side adventure with another co-worker. Classic, right? Lauren is still in the dark about it all. I can't help but feel a twinge of sympathy for her, like watching a cat try to catch its own tail, endearing, yet a little sad. So close, yet so far. She's finally getting the harvest from all that planting she did. Just a few nights back, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree with a flood of texts from Lauren. She was obviously 3 sheets to the wind, rambling about a colossal blunder and how she was all in for a heart-to-heart on making amends. I just sat there, letting silence do the talking for me. Well, it seems the silence is louder than a room full of chatter. Who knew nothing could be so profound? A friend of mine caught sight of Lauren and Michael engaged in a full-blown shouting contest at a restaurant downtown. You know, just your average Tuesday night drama. So, Michael decided to label her as used goods and made a dramatic exit, leaving her to foot the bill. Classic move, right? Once more, this isn't my show, and those aren't my clowns. Last week, she made a surprise appearance at my new apartment, completely uninvited. Fortunately, the building's security was on point, and they turned her away at the door like a bouncer at an exclusive club. She really made a splash in the lobby, hollering that I had to have a word with her. I've added the security footage to my collection, just in case I find myself needing a restraining order. You know, the usual paperwork for when things get a little too interesting. The final divorce decree showed up in the mailbox yesterday, like an unwanted guest who just won't leave the party. Meanwhile, my ex, who clearly has too much time on their hands, has taken to crafting a whole collection of fake social media profiles just to keep the harassment train rolling since the divorce was wrapped up. I've jotted down every little detail and sent it off to the folks in charge. My lawyer is pondering whether to whip up a restraining order if this keeps up. On the bright side, I'm packing my bags and heading to another state for a shiny new job adventure. I've been wrangling my friends into helping me pack up the apartment, and let me tell you, it's been quite the adventure. People have been saying I look a whole lot better than I did a few months back. Guess I finally found the secret to looking less like a raccoon and more like a human. The bags under my eyes have packed their bags and left town, and I'm finally catching some Z's like a pro. Time has a funny way of patching things up, doesn't it? While I was wrestling with boxes and trying to fit everything into the moving truck yesterday, Lauren popped up on the sidewalk like a surprise guest at a party. She pleaded for another shot, insisting that Michael was a blunder and that she'd come to see just what she had tossed aside. I just waved my farewell and hit the road, leaving her there like a statue in a park. It was like I had stumbled into the last act of a film I never signed up for, and let me tell you, the plot twists were not what I had in mind. Here I am, typing away from a hotel that's sort of a pit stop on my grand adventure to my new home. After what feels like an eternity, I'm finally looking at the future with a sprinkle of optimism. Who knew it could be so refreshing? The pain hasn't packed its bags and left for good, but it's definitely on the road to disappearing. I'm excited to embark on this new adventure where trust and honesty are as essential as coffee on a Monday morning. Cheers to fresh start. It's like an onion, really, just when you think you've reached the core, there's another layer waiting to surprise you. Michael's numerous escapades. Lauren's escapades in the world of work. Those not-so-genuine social media profiles of hers. It's like they've taken up professional hole digging as a hobby, every scoop just makes things worse. Karma's on the move, packing its bags and heading to a new state for a little reboot, huh? That sounds like just the ticket for you. Well, here we are, 6 months later, folks. I've found my groove in this new city and job, and to be honest, life is treating me quite well. The space between us has turned out to be a bit of a miracle worker, speeding up my healing in ways I never saw coming. Just when I believed I had finally escaped the whirlwind of Lauren's antics, she managed to waltz back into my life like a cat that thinks it owns the place. Last month, I got a letter from her. Yes, you heard that right, an old-fashioned letter. Not an email or a text, but the kind that required my signature, like I was receiving a top-secret government document or a surprise inheritance from a long-lost relative. Oh, the drama. It's like a soap opera without the commercials. Inside was a tale of woe, detailing how her life had unraveled like a cheap sweater since our divorce. So, it turns out Michael decided to trade her in for a new model just 3 months after they officially cohabitated. Classic move, right? Can you believe it? If a fellow's willing to play the field with you, chances are he'll be playing the field with someone else too. Well, isn't that a plot twist no one saw coming? She waved goodbye to their apartment, all because the rental loan decided to play hardball and her wallet just wasn't up for the challenge. Her credit took a nosedive thanks to a mountain of unpaid bills and that loan they thought would kickstart their new life together. The real twist? She tossed in her bank account details and requested a loan to help her bounce back on her feet. No set number, just whatever I could muster from the depths of my heart to offer her. The sheer nerve is nearly commendable. I just shrugged it off and carried on with my day, like a cat ignoring a dog barking at it. A week later, I got a call from her sister. She kicked things off with a bit of chit-chat, casually inquiring about my well-being before smoothly transitioning to the actual reason for her call. She laid it out straight, Lauren was in a bit of a pickle and could really use a hand. As I kept my lips sealed, she decided to dive into the details. Lauren found herself in a bit of a pickle, needing $5,000 to snag a new apartment and steer clear of the dreaded homeless life. I chuckled. I just couldn't resist. I inquired with her sister if she recalled the time Lauren attempted to snag 70% of her assets in the divorce. You know, just a casual chat about family drama and financial shenanigans. How she'd weave tales about me being the villain in her story. There she was, bursting into my apartment like a whirlwind, turning my peaceful space into a stage for her dramatic performances. How she had taken the time to craft fake accounts just to make my online life a little more interesting, like a plot twist in a not-so-funny novel. Her sister managed to sound a bit sheepish, as if she'd just been caught with her hand in the cookie jar. She mumbled something about having learned her lesson and being a whole new person now. I casually mentioned to her that Lauren's housing situation had officially graduated from my list of concerns. Well, that's the essence of divorce for you. I figured it might be a good idea for her to ask Michael for help instead, seeing as he was the one she had tossed our marriage aside for. 2 days later, my phone rang with a number that looked like it had just come from another planet. I replied, assuming it had something to do with work. Well, would you look at that? It was Michael. He dove into a speech that felt like it had been polished more than a trophy, talking about how Lauren was in distress and how I should rise to the occasion and lend her a hand. I interrupted him mid-sentence, like a squirrel darting across the road, leaving him momentarily stuck. All right, let's clarify this, shall we? I told you, you had a little too much fun with my wife, turned my marriage into a soap opera, moved her in like it was a reality show, and then tossed her aside for the next contestant. So, let me get this straight, you're ringing me up to suggest I should hand over some cash to her? Are you feeling a bit out there? He began to stutter, trying to explain how it was all a tangled mess and that I never intended to hurt a soul. I ended the call with a decisive click. So, I went ahead and blocked his number. Because, you know, sometimes you just have to hit the big red button and say, not today, my friend. The following day, an email from Lauren's work inbox popped up in my notifications. She said she was at the end of her rope, with no place left to go. She apologized for it all, finally coming to terms with the colossal blunder she'd committed. All she required was a tiny nudge to find her footing again. And then she'd vanish from my life like a magician's rabbit, poof. Gone forever. I shot an email over to her HR department, adding a little note to clarify that she was putting company resources to work in her quest to harass her ex-husband. You know, just a casual Tuesday in the office. I got an automated response saying they'd look into it. Classic, right? Just 2 days later, I got the scoop from an old colleague that Lauren had received a formal warning for her creative use of company resources. Who knew resourcefulness could come with a side of reprimand? So, yesterday, Michael's wife decided it was high time for a little chat to see how things were going. She's absolutely thriving. The ink is dry on their divorce papers. She snagged the house and the kids, like a pro at a custody game show. And she's seeing a fellow who actually knows how to treat her right. She casually noted that Michael had reached out to her not too long ago, and surprise, surprise, he was also looking for some cash. Well, it seems his latest romance took a nosedive as well. Well, it seems he's got a bit of a money pickle on his hand. She gave him a piece of her mind and suggested he find a nice beach to dig his toes into. We shared a hearty chuckle about the whimsical ways of karma. Two cheaters, once convinced they were galloping into the sunset hand in hand, now find themselves apart, each pleading with their exes for a little financial mercy. This is the kind of thing that could only happen in a story, right? Well, it looks like I've decided to dip my toes back into the dating pool. My new place is shaping up quite nicely, like a puzzle that's finally finding its pieces, minus the cat trying to eat them, of course. I went on a little shopping spree and snagged all the new furniture. Last month, I hit the jackpot at work and snagged a promotion. The ache isn't going to stick around for a lifetime, I promise you that. This will be my last word on this little saga. Cheers to embracing life in all its glorious messiness. Ah, nothing quite like that delightful taste of revenge, is there? It's like a perfectly baked pie, sweet, satisfying, and just a little bit messy. Lauren's over-the-top letter and bold plea for a loan? Ha! Well, that's a chuckle waiting to happen. So, Michael decided it was a good time to ring you up and ask for some cash, huh? Wait, what now? You really nailed that one, didn't you? On top of everything else, it seems like Michael's wife is really thriving. And hats off to her for giving them the old heave-ho. Honestly, it's a bit of a chuckle to see them both dealing with the fallout of their own shenanigans. Here's to fresh starts and brighter tomorrows, my friends. We'd love to hear what you think, so drop your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for hopping on board with us today in our little corner of the universe. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and ring that notification bell, because you definitely don't want to miss our next adventure. Catch you later.